Good morning, everyone. I am super duper excited to be with you this morning. I am standing in, and I realize that y'all don't even like me when I welcome you to the call because nobody say anything. But I want to introduce my girl, Lynette Rogers.
Michelle Washington. Good morning, Michelle. I like you, I love you, and I love your energy. How you doing this morning?
I am doing well. It is well with my soul, Lynette.
Awesome. Well, good morning, Michelle. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Momentum Mondays. That's right. This call that you are on this morning, it is designed to wake you up, to shake you up, and take you up to new levels in your life, your career, your business, and your dreams. And we are reaching our dreams in 2016. We are finishing this year out strong. And I am so excited this morning because I am going to rock and roll on a topic this morning that we all are familiar with. But I cannot do it without my amazing co-host. That's right. We are on the line showing up this morning, and I want to say good morning. Good morning to Bishop Dickie Robbins. He is the pastor of Life in Christ, Cathedral of Faith. He is the author of the new devotional, Wisdom of the Word, 90-Day Journal. Good morning, Bishop Dickie Robbins, calling in from Chester, Pennsylvania. How you doing, Bishop?
Good morning. And I am excited to take the breath that God blessed me with. If you're breathing, you got a chance.
All right. If you're breathing, you got a chance, another chance. Yes. Good morning, Bishop. And next up, we have Dawn Roseman. She is a partner in a major law firm, a writer, a keynote speaker, author of the brand new book, Yes, Boss Presence, and it is Amazon's hottest seller. She is bad to the bone. Chiming in from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Good morning, Dawn Roseman.
Hey, good morning, Lynette Rogers. Hey, guess what? We, you, me, everybody on this call was created to reign. Let's do it together. Let's go.
Woo! Let's go. Yes. And next up, from Fort Wayne, Indiana, she is the founder of Girls Rock. She is a community leader, a youth advocate, and an international speaker. She is also just amazing in each and every way. Good morning, Janita Washington.
Good morning, Lynette, and good morning to our callers. I just want to remind everybody today, please remember the way of the world. Let's lead with love when you encounter everybody, because someone you may meet just might need it. So welcome to the call this morning.
Good morning, Janita. Thank you for that. And last but not least, yes, you heard her this morning. She was pumped up. She's always pumped up, and we're going to show her some love. Yes. She is from Newark, Delaware. She is the visionary of the Women of More campaign. She is the author of the brand new Women of More magazine, and she always shows up intentional. Good morning, Michelle Washington.
Good morning, Lynette Rogers, and to all the callers. I am intentional about my day every single day. Let's go, Lynette.
Let's go. And we are holding down the fort for Miss Jill Jordan Green, the host and visionary of this call. She is doing what visionaries do. She is building, and we are going to rock and roll on the call. If you have not already done so, please go to our Facebook page. It's a private group page, and request to join. If you are not already a member, we want you to dialogue with us. And if you haven't done so already, hashtag I'm on the call. Hashtag I'm on the call. Well, this morning, this weekend we were all doing a little bit of whatever we were doing. But one thing I know that was common in some of the conversations I had over the weekend was this word called fear. I was asking people, what is stopping you from going to the next level? What is some things that are holding you back from doing the things that we dream of, that you are just destined to do? And that four-letter word, fear, kept showing up in the conversations that I had over the weekend. So I want to know, what is it for you? What fear is holding you back? Is it public speaking? Is it asserting yourself? Is it making hard decisions? Is it fear of change, being alone, aging, driving? Some people are afraid to drive, losing a loved one, ending a relationship. These are things, some of the things, and the list goes on and on and on. But we want to talk about fear this morning because I know that the acronym for fear is false evidence or expectations appearing real. I want to bring in my co-host this morning. We are going to tackle this topic. How many times have fear showed up in our life and has held us hostage? Danita, let me bring you in on the conversation. What has fear held hostage in your life? Let's talk about it, Danita.
For me, I think it started maybe with my weight loss journey. You know, I'd have to go there, Lynette, because I think for so long I had been entrapped by fear of change, what it would cost me, how it would be painful. You know, that was one of the biggest things. I didn't want to be in pain, even though I was in pain, overweight and unhealthy. So I think for me, you know, it was the weight loss. I did not want to, and it was several things in that dynamic with the weight loss. It wasn't just the fear of the pain, but I think more of I've learned as I'm gaining strength with it, that I was fearful of when I change to what it meant for change of people around me, what it would cost me. So I think, you know, for me, I really, really had to look at my journey with this weight loss and this unhealthiness and figure out what was holding me back, what was the entrapment. And I figured it out that it was fear of the pain and what weight loss was going to do for me and what it was going to do for people around me.
That's good, Danita. You know, it's interesting because most of us fear change, right? Fear change,
yeah.
And it's one of those things because it's unknown. It's like I'm comfortable doing things and doing life one way, and then the idea or the desire to change shows up, but then there's an unknown factor. Bishop, I want to bring you in on the conversation. False expectations appearing real. Let's talk about that. What does that mean? And has fear ever held you hostage in your life?
Well, first of all, the acronym can, you know, there's two acronyms, false evidence or false expectation, and I think they're a little slightly different. False evidence, evidence is what convicts people in a court of law. And when you're in a judicial setting, the judge basically or the jury hears the evidence, and if the evidence is overwhelming enough, then the verdict of guilty is reached, or this is enough to prove the point. So what the devil tries to do is offer false evidence to convince you that what it is you are attempting to do or desire to do is not possible. And he'll show you things like nobody in your family has ever done it before. He'll show you that it's going to cost too much or it's going to require too much of you. Physically, you're not strong enough. Mentally or emotionally, you're not strong enough. So he begins to build a mountain. I'm sure Dr. Dawn can confirm this. In a court of law, they talk about a preponderance of evidence. That is an overwhelming amount of evidence that seems to suggest that something is true, whether or not it is. But sometimes the evidence is circumstantial, and it really does not have any concrete bearing in your life, but because of the amount of it, you believe the truth of that. But what you have to do is face fear, and you can't fight what you won't face. And once you face it, you realize that you can overcome whatever that thing is that's facing you. Now, you face it, you fight it, and you then defeat it. Now, that takes courage, and courage is not the absence of fear. Courage acknowledges the fear and proceeds anyway. So people need to stop thinking that courage is never experiencing fear. Everyone who's human has experienced fear in some way or another, but you proceed as though the fear is not talking to you.
Wow, Bishop, you said a mouthful. Yes, indeed. And, you know, it's really key that we make sure we get that point because fear is natural. Fear shows up, right? So we're going to have instances throughout our entire life where we experience fear. But we need to be able to recognize it for what it is. And like you said, Bishop, you can't fight what you don't face. So we have to be able to really see it for what it is and just determine that we are going to tackle that thing. Dawn, Dr. Dawn, you know I got to bring you in on the conversation. Absolutely got to get your, just come on, let's talk about false expectations, false evidence appearing real. Has it shown up in your life, and how has it held you hostage?
Has it? My goodness, it is. I don't think a human being is being honest with themselves if it hasn't. And what I've come to learn and what I has helped me is that the most successful people, the people whom you think have it all together, Lynette, they will tell you that on a regular basis it shows up. I think Steve Harvey talked about they were interviewing him, and he was backstage. I think he was going on Oprah or something, one of the first times he had gone on Oprah, and he was backstage just pacing. And they were like, "What are you doing, man?" Whatever people were asking him. He's like, he was terrified. And you look at it, you're like, what are you terrified about? You go on stage all the time. You do all this stuff all the time. But my gosh, it's like I think the more you ascend, I know that to be the case. The more you ascend, the more fear I think comes. But that to me is good news in a way, Lynette. So yes, the short answer is yes. But without question, fear has held me hostage at times. We can celebrate. I can celebrate boss presence, but the reality of it is, I started writing a book 3 years before that. But I put it down because all the thoughts in my head of like, they're gonna think I'm stupid. I don't have anything to say. What am I talking about? You're a lawyer. You're this. What are you doing? They're gonna think you're all these things, man. Even when I wrote Boss Presence, I wrote it, and then it was like. Every word that I put down, they're like, that's crazy. You can't do this, all these things. And when it was done, then the fear came, it ain't long enough. It ain't this. It's not this. They're going to laugh at that. It doesn't do this. It was crazy. I almost didn't release it. I almost didn't do all kinds of things, Lynn. But I say I take it as a good thing now because I know I am messing with the enemy. Right? I'm messing with him because that mug comes tough. When I start stepping outside of how I feel and stop giving my feelings a vote, I always talk about, we created the rain, right? We're royalty. We stand on that pedestal. Our feelings and our feelings and our fears are grounded in our feelings. Constantly give us an invitation to step down and entertain them, and we have to constantly say, "I'm not coming down for you. I'm royalty. I'm staying right here," and that's hard. It's a day in, day out thing, man. But every time it comes, you ought to know I am on to something because you wouldn't be messing with me otherwise. You
better believe it.
Nothing. If it ain't challenging you to come up higher.
You better believe it, Dawn. That is so true. And, that's the thing. If you're not doing something, right, that is directly tied to your purpose, or if you are not doing some of the things that you're supposed to do, right, you're going to be, for the most part, comfortable. That fear thing,
right.
It'll be there, but, like you said, you knew that you were on to something when the fear just kept showing up. Bigger and bigger and tugging at you, right? So, Michelle, Women of More magazine, oh my goodness, it has taken off this year just to new heights, and I'm just so proud of just the campaign and what you're doing with Women of More, and I just want you to speak to fear, and has that shown up on this journey, especially with you launching Women of More magazine? Talk to us about just any of the fears that you experienced on this journey this year.
Lynette, even just you saying that, and I greatly appreciate you acknowledging that. It's been a journey, man. I even now I feel emotional because something as small as a simple pamphlet that was a magazine in Elle magazine, I carried that thing for a year, just touching it and feeling and hoping and wishing like one day, and I didn't start writing, I didn't start designing, just holding it and touching it. believing but not believing, if that makes any sense. And for the first, just the launch edition, that was only 8 pages. I was tripping over that. Every time, Lynette, every time I pull the trigger when it's done, I get so nervous, not nervous to the point of, oh my gosh, nervous like, what are people going to say? Or is it really enough? Like you said, Dr. Dawn, like it's done, it's over. But man, I'm telling you, the more I do it, it's becoming easier to pull the trigger. What happens is, Lynette, that I was talking myself out of just doing it. That's why my 2 words for this year was intentional execution. And I'm telling you, the thing that I said to myself, I'm going to ask people to be in it. I'm going to ask certain people that I have no relationship with. I'm just going to ask the question. And the only thing they could do is say no. But what if, Lynette? What if, team, they say yes? And I just continue to move. So with all of that, Lynette, I'm emotional. I know that I'm on the right track because, like Dr. Dawn, I know the enemy is mad. I know he is. But I know I have a purpose. And God don't want to hear me say, well, God, I didn't do this and that because fear was on my back. And I was like, well, I created you to do. So I have to reign, like Dr. Dawn just said.
Wow. And I want to challenge the callers, too. If you're part of our Facebook group page, go to our Facebook group page and let's talk about, what fears have held you hostage? What fears have shown up in your life that if it wasn't there, you would be living life to the fullest? All of us are desirous of achieving certain goals. We have a vision of what we want our life to look like. But what are the fears that are the false evidence that are appearing real, that is stopping you from going to the next level? And, I think about my journey. Oh, my goodness, I used to be so afraid of doing what I'm doing now, speaking, public speaking. You couldn't get me to do this. I remember how many times I had an opportunity to get up and say something, voice my opinion, share something that I've learned, something that I knew would help another person, but because of fear and the conversations that I was having in my head, oh my goodness, it's so interesting because what I've heard throughout our dialogue this morning is that, honestly, the fear starts within. It is a conversation that we're having in our head. It's something that's talking us out of pushing forward. And what I've learned to do is really fight that conversation. And like you said, Michelle, what if that person says yes instead of entertaining the no, right? And so it's so interesting because it starts with the internal conversation. And Danita, I want to bring you back in on the topic because, again, isn't it interesting how we will talk ourselves out of something when you know it's for you? You know that this is your calling. You know this is something that you're supposed to do. And we will back out of that thing it's so quick how we can do that. Danita, what are your thoughts on that? And how has what has fear taught you on your journey towards success?
I think a lot of it, when I even listen to us talk, and some of my friends talk, the one thing it's taught me is that becoming fearless is sometimes a by yourself journey. I think those are the moments in the time when I've learned my best, when I've learned how to utilize my own strength. Too many times I put fear in the hands of, not fear, but my peace in the hands of friendships, relationships. And those humans are going to fail you. At some point that could happen. So for me, I think it taught me that, to become fearless sometimes means to stand alone. And even with your bestest friend, even with, moms and dads and relationships, husband and wife, there are moments when God wants our full throttle attention with him. And so for me, I had to learn to be intimate in that, and that being alone isn't being lonely, that success comes sometimes on the hinges of by yourself moments. And so For me, I've really, really pushed and pressed that. Like Steve Harvey said when he was back behind that stage, I knew what Dawn was talking about. This is your time. And sometimes our time means that we're going to leave some people behind. So we have to be willing to do that. And so that's the one thing that, I'm learning, that there are moments when I went to Brazil and I had a total lineup of what I wanted to go. And then God started saying, no, certain people couldn't go. They ain't going to go. And it was nothing that they was doing intentionally. But for me, it was a moment of success for me that he wanted me to taste on an individual level. And he wanted to give me an understanding that you and you alone can do this. But I think initially I allowed fear to step in. And it was like, no, you're going to be fearless in this pursuit. You're going to quit playing with me.
Yes,
that's one of the things that it has taught me is that, you cannot be afraid to be alone on some portions of this journey, and success is going to happen. So you just have to take that jump and do it. So that's
well, you know what, Danita, it's interesting that you say that because, I know that a lot of times we do have that fear of letting people go. That is one thing because, in my vision and our visions, we have people lined up of who's going to be there with us when we cross the finish line. And, Michelle, we were talking about this last night on our pre-call, how it's really the disappointment of those individuals not being there. I don't know necessarily if it's the fear of letting them go. It's just a disappointment of them not actually being there. Michelle, chime in on that because really when we think about it, they have a fear. Those people that don't support us, those people who are struggling with, just kind of lining themselves up with your journey, it's your journey. It's not their journey. But there's a fear on the opposite end as well. So really it's fear from them just, I guess, for the most part, just accepting you on your journey. Michelle, talk about that because we talked about it a little bit last night, but I think really it's more of that disappointment. What are your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I agree with you, and that's such a good point, Lynette. It's more of a disappointment that I am experiencing because, like in any relationship, you think, okay, if I'm doing this for you, if I'm all in, I'm buying into your dreams and stuff, you will get that in return. And when it doesn't happen that way, it's kind of disappointing. It's a letdown because when you in a relationship, a true relationship with anyone, whether it's friends, whether it's an intimate relationship, you're thinking that you are absolutely getting to know each other. One of the things that I am learning is that sometimes in any relationship, one person is courageous enough to do something different, and then the other person may want to stay where they are. It's almost like who moved my cheese type of thing. It's like, the person is going after their dreams and the other person wants you to stay here. But I believe, Lynette, that when you're trying to reach your dreams, it's just a matter of adjusting. One of the things my pastor always says is that in relationships, you don't want to cut them off. Sometimes you just need to untie them because when you cut something off, it's going to cause pain for you and pain for the other person. But you slowly untie those things and just make those necessary adjustments. Maybe that person was just close right there to you. Maybe you have to just slowly move, not dismiss them out your life, but just realign them in your life. So definitely, Lynette, it's not fear that I have had in relationship or just in those relationships. It's a matter of being disappointment of how they respond to where I was.
Well, I think a lot of us can relate to that. And, Bishop, I want to pull you back in on the discussion. I noticed in our Facebook group page, I put the challenge out there. I asked for, some of our listeners to share what kind of fears are holding them hostage. And I've seen in the Facebook group page, one of our listeners put fear that if I get going and I can't keep it up. Now, that's something, because that's kind of like an alignment. And I also see the fear of success, fear that I just can't get it right or won't do it right. And, Bishop, I want you to chime in on those particular things that they posted because I know that a lot of times the fear of success is like really like putting yourself out there and then wondering like, oh my goodness, now I'm out here. And I know I've had that kind of situation where I'm like, oh, this is like a weird feeling. And so it just kind of challenges you to show up every time. What about that fear of success, Bishop? Can you speak to that? Because that's what I hear when I see these two posts, the fear that I just can't get it right or won't do it right, or the fear that if I get going, I just can't keep up. Speak to that, Bishop.
Well, there are a couple of things that strike me when I hear that conversation. One is, if success was guaranteed, everybody would try. The problem is success is not guaranteed. Opportunity presents itself, and we give it our best effort. And the second thing is, most of us are more familiar with failure than we are success. We know what we do. If we fail, we try again. We hear all these adages. If at first you don't succeed, try and try again. We hear that, but there's no advice. What do you do when you succeed? And then you have to build to a higher level of success. Well, that's a platform that many people have not achieved, and so there is unfamiliar territory. So we have to begin to realize it's almost like your car. When you're taking a long road trip, you put gas in your car. But the gas you put in your car at the beginning is the gas to get you started. But you're going to have to stop again to get gas to continue. The same thing is with success. What you place in your life to get you started is not what you need in your life to keep you going. So you have to continue to add people and influences along the way. Get advice, get insight from people who have done what you're attempting to do. That advice would do you no good if you got it at the beginning, because all you need to get started is what you need to get started. What you need to continue is a whole different thing. But you bring that into your life at different stages. So what I would say to the callers is, you have everything that you need to get started if you have the desire to get started. Everything else you can bring into your life along the way. And if God is the one who's telling you to get started, he already knows where to bring those other influences into your life, and he knows exactly what intersection to connect with you to have those things added.
Wow, my goodness. So it starts with a desire, Bishop. My goodness. I am just really tripping over what you just said, because that is so true. It really starts with that desire, and things will happen and show up. People will show up to give you what you need. God knows what he's doing. We just have to get moving. Oh, my goodness. There was one other post, and I definitely wanted to make sure because this right here is another one that I find that is common when we talk about fear. And it says, fear of rejection has held me hostage, and fear of success. And we talked on the fear of success, but Dawn, I want to bring you back in, because again, when you were saying, hey, on my journey of writing Boss Presence, I heard that's the same thing, fear of rejection. What do I have to talk about it? That's that fear of rejection. Speak to that too. How did you just conquer it, though? I mean, because obviously you conquered it. Boss Presence is out. Boss Presence is Amazon number. I mean, it killed Amazon charts when you dropped it. So talk about how you overcame that fear of rejection, because it is a common theme that we hear that is a barrier to that is holding us hostage.
Well, I mean, two things. And I posted this in our message group. I mean, God is another version of God has not given us a spirit of fear. There's another version in there. There's a book called the Mirror Bible, and it talks about this: when you have a saved mind, that these sorts of thoughts of fear are an inferior mindset. He can say that because if God didn't give it to us, and I say this to myself a lot, if God didn't give it to me, then that means that it will come. That's fine, but I don't have to accept it. It doesn't belong to me. It didn't come from him. That means I have authority over it. And so I kept, one of the things that's critical, you asked me how to deal with fear of rejection, because I literally feel that all the time, literally feel it all the time. Right now, sitting here today, feel that right now in terms of the things I'm thinking about. I've got to do this journey I'm on now. And so, one of the things is continually, Lynette, reminding myself of who I am. And you mean that is critical. We talked about it a little bit when we were just getting warmed up for the call. It is critical that you spend time learning who you are so you develop a faith in that more than the fears that continually speak to you. No different than, and I use this example a lot when I get a chance to speak, if I sit here and your name is Lynette, but I start calling you Tina. I'm like, Tina, what's he going to do with this? You be like, Tina, do this. Tina, do that. You be like, why does this girl keep calling me Tina? That's not my name. It is no different than me sitting here saying loser, failure, depressed person, anything I want to call you. If it ain't your name, stop answering. So you don't know to stop answering though if you've not spent the time to know who you are. Secondly, and probably the biggest driver for me, Lynette, is that all this stuff that's in me, I always say, like, I want to live a life poured out. It's because this ain't about me. And you got to understand this stuff in you, the business you want to start, the gift that you have, the gifts that you have on the inside of you, every caller, it ain't about you. Yes, it will produce things for you. That's how awesome God is. And so it will pay your bills and let you ride nice and do all these things. That's fine. He ain't tripping about that. But it ain't about you. There's somebody needing, not just waiting because it'd be nice to consume, needing. Their very life hinges on you walking in your path, to doing what you're called to do. And if you bury it, if you run from it, it doesn't mean that person, that God ain't got a plan for them. He always provides a way of escape. But, man, that's a lower level of living. And so it's not about you. And so when you get outside of yourself, like when I think about, whether you have kids or not, but I can use mine as an example. When I think about giving in to fear, that means I'm giving in. I'm now teaching my children to do the same. I can't do that. This ain't about me, but I know them. There are people out there I know. As much as I had to, this is one example, had to trudge through mentally to get those few pages out that called Boss Presence. I met somebody 2 days ago. They're a client. I thought I was meeting them to talk to them about, developing work and all these things. When I tell you, I was like, hi, I'm Dawn Roseman. And she grabbed me. She grabbed me and hugged me. And she was like, your book helped me so much. That's why we do this stuff. I start crying because I was like, oh, my gosh, because you think you ain't going to make it. And so that's why you got to get it out. Everything you think about you that is mundane and or whatever, those things, and you're like, ain't nobody checking for that. God put that in you. And so you've got to let it out so that you get to the places that he wants to get it, to the people he needs to get it to, so their lives are changed, so this world is changed. I know I've got to get off the subject. I'm going to stop talking because that's the only way. I'll be on this call by myself forever. Y'all come back, I'll still be talking about this. That's why I wake up, like Michelle says, like this every day, because somebody's life depends on me walking in my purpose.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And that's it. Remind yourself who you are. Know who you are and whose you are. Danita, as we get ready to wrap up the call, speak to that fear of rejection. And then to all the co-hosts after Danita, we want to just, leave the callers with, just how you tackle that fear. How are we going to slay that fear? Danita, give us a few words on, that fear of rejection.
I'm going to sum this up. I'm going to try in a few words, but because this is personal for me. I think the one thing I want to say to the caller is heal from your past. Because anytime you're looking for human validation in your destiny, there's some past hurt. There's some past hurdles. And I'm speaking from myself, heal from your past. Whatever somebody did in your past that set up these mental roadblocks, remove that and begin to heal from that past hurt. Because trust me, anytime you're doing greatness, human validation may not come. It may not come. They may not. You may enter circles where people have no clue. They don't even believe you have value to bring. But when you know you on a God-given assignment, you can stand on the throne of that, sis. Whoever you are, you can stand on the throne knowing, even when they throwing rocks, whatever they saying, as Dawn said, when you know who you are, and it's a God-given assignment, you will sit at tables with people, and you can be the less credentialed. Ask me how I know. And you can come out and create a plan, like you said, for people whose destiny is tied to what you're doing. I had to understand. I had no idea why God gave me Girls Rock for this city. I had no idea. And I thought it was just for Fort Wayne. Now that I found out that this is for international, the fear that stepped into me. But he kept reminding me, I don't care if you're not credentialed. I don't care if you don't have this degree. I don't care if you don't have this dollar amount. I'm giving you the assignment. You are purposed. And so for the caller, I think you have to know that. You have to know that you are purposed. Little old you, who you do not yet see as the big you. You know, and you got to get some people in your circle like the Dawn Rosemans, like the Michelle Washingtons, like the Lynnettes in my life that will speak to your fear so that you can propel and move forward. But if they don't show up yet, you have to trust that you on, again, the God assignment. And so whose expectations are you trying to live up to? That's the question. Is it a God assignment that you on? Or is this a human assignment that you're trying to accommodate and please some people? That's the question you got to ask yourself. And, again, be willing to be uncomfortable. If you ain't willing to be uncomfortable, most great people, most people who move masses of people, you ask them the moments in their life where they've had to be willing to be uncomfortable. Like Steve Harvey said, he get judged all the time on the book he wrote because he went through 3 marriages to get to the one he in. And you know how many people say, how do he have the nerve to speak to how to be, you know, in a relationship? Well, he said, I got the nerve because I'm willing to be uncomfortable publicly and admit to all 3 of the horrible marriages that I had before the 4th one. So, you know, don't be afraid. You know, don't be afraid of your past. Your past is what sometimes is a part of your testimony to pass the test. So that's what I would say to the caller, Michelle.
Heal from your past. Heal from your past. You know what, Denise? That's where you start. That's where you start, or that thing will keep showing up. So, Michelle, as we wrap up, can you just give the callers, you know, how are we going to slay these fears? Come on, Michelle, give it to us. Give it to us.
Well, actually, we got to stop going to the well, to the dry well, and go to the well that's going to provide life for us. Sometimes we're going to the people that don't understand where you're trying to go, and then that's a level of rejection. It's not their fault that they don't know. Like Bishop said, they may have been good in the beginning, but if you want to go where you need to be, you have to make sure that you're engaging people that already have been there, done that, and that can feed you where you are. Dr. Dawn, you said it best. Stop telling and calling yourself things. Tell the truth. The truth of the matter is that you're more than a conqueror. Get it done. Be intentional and execute that thing that you're dealing with, that thing you've been pondering over today, period.
I love it. I love it. Bishop, your last words, and then we're going to wrap up the call. We could talk about fear. Oh, I mean, my goodness. Bishop, give us some last words.
Fear is common to all. Fighting fear is common to the winners. Nobody will achieve any form of greatness without facing fear. But fear is a tool of the devil, not always to stop you, but to slow you down enough that you miss your appointment with destiny. Don't delay concerning your assignment. Move out if God said it, because the power to do is in the command.
I love it. I love it. We are facing our fears. We are facing our fears. And you know, we are just going to feel the fear and do it anyway. We are not going to let anything stop us from our God-given assignment. Folks, this is it. We are right at the hour. This is it. We can talk for the rest of the week, but we just wanted to make sure as fear shows up in your life today, this week, I don't care when it shows up, you are going to feel the fear and do it anyway. I'm going to open up the lines, and I want to hear everybody loud and serious about it shout, I am facing my fears.
I am facing my fears.
I am facing my fears. I am facing my fears. I am facing my fears. I am facing my fears.
I am facing my fears.
Facing my fears.
I am facing my fears.
Bye-bye. I wish I would.